What's up, world? How's everybody doing today, tonight, tomorrow? As I always say, whatever time, realm, dimension you're living in, I hope you're doing great, feeling blessed, no stress. Maybe you sit down playing a game of chess, stressing out. Don't stress. Chess isn't supposed to be about that, right? Chess is supposed to be relaxing, and it triggers the mind to think. Chess is also a great way to look at the world right now. This world we live in, full of pawns and knights and rooks and kings and queens, you name it. But mainly it seems to be the pawns. A lot of times, unfortunately, we get put in that position. Chess is a great way to look at the world. You look at the way there's manipulation in chess. You know, the deception, that false sense of security, people give you and they lure you into a trap. The way they can deceive you and go one way when in reality they're coming up the other way. Chess is so much like the world we live in. Mainstream media being a big part of that. I don't know if they're quite the pawns, but they dang sure push them. They go out there and make you think one thing, and when in reality something totally different has happened. Chess is just, when you really look at this world, and you look at the way the pieces are moved in it, and you start to understand and you relate those two, well, you'll see this world is chess. And unfortunately, these leaders, these elites, these powers that be that are running this world, they've treated it like a big game, but they're writing the rules, and we're unfortunately stuck to live out in these rules, and somehow, constantly manipulation and deception, and we're being played all the time. And one reason I love chess is I'm not that good at it, but I do love to play. It's that triggering my mind, pushing me past what I thought my capabilities were, learning something that truly I thought I'd never learn or I'd never be good at, and learning that I could apply it to life. Too many times people are so content in this world to sit down and eat McDonald's and stare at the boob tube and listen to Access Hollywood push those pawns across their TV, and they fall right in for it. Now, I'm not saying all of you do that. Probably the majority of you watching this video all understand what I'm saying. You get that. You're not sitting on the couch stuffing your face with, some McNuggets and whatever else they make out of yoga mats and all that crud. Don't eat that stuff. It's not good for you. But sadly, too much of this world they fall into that deception. They fall right along and they don't see what's going on over here when this piece is actually sneaking up around the board to get their king. They don't see that part. They tell you straight up, well, the TV didn't tell me so. The newsman didn't say it. Well, guess what? The newsman don't say a lot. And what he does say is put there for a reason. It's put there to send you in the wrong way, or make you look at the wrong thing, or be concerned about the wrong thing. And unfortunately, a lot of us fall into that. We fall for those pawns. I do it myself, and I wonder sometimes. I wonder that even with all these things going on in the world right now, the things that we've been looking at, am I looking at the wrong thing? Am I possibly falling for that move on the board and I'm chasing the wrong piece, when in reality I should be looking at something totally different? And when it comes to things like the DNC, Russian collusion, all that, Rand Paul being attacked in his yard, and might I say, the field I've been in for a long time, I know a lot of guys who mow yards, and it's very rare that I see a guy of that stature pushing a lawnmower. That's very rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, I'm just saying that's rare. But just like all these stories, everything from Vegas to Texas to New York to Trump dumping some fish food in, and we're all being told that he disrespected the whole Japanese culture when in reality they did it too. So for once, Trump was right on that. I gotta give it to him. That was fake news.
That's fake news.
But it's those deceptions. You have to wonder, are we focusing on the wrong things? And I, by no means am I saying don't focus on Vegas, don't focus on Texas, don't focus, on New York or the DNC. What I'm saying is, don't focus too hard. Don't put all your eggs in that one basket, because you can so easily miss what's really going on the board. See, that's one of the things. They give us these crumbs, and sometimes I wonder, these clues that we're waiting on, or these answers that we're waiting on, if that's not all on purpose, to make us dig deeper, to make us go further, when in reality something else is going on right in front of us. But we're so focused on these events that we can't see what's going on right behind them. That's all I'm saying. By no means do we need to forget about them, because we need, everything builds. It's all a spider web. It's connected somehow. If we get to the bottom of one thing, then maybe we can get to the bottom of the next, and the bottom of the next, and then we can really start to put it all together. And we can't stop doing that. Like, one of the things that isn't being talked about in the news too much right now, or really not at all, is the fact of this war machine starting up and going again. Saudi Arabia and Iran and this whole axis of evil. It's like the Bush-Cheney days have kicked off again, I mean, the only thing we see in the news lately about Saudi Arabia is the fact that they gave a robot more rights than women have ever had there. And that's supposed to be the big news, right? Well, there's so much more going on there than we're not being told, or they're not talking about. The fact that Saudi Arabia is pushing this war with Iran, and the fact that we are involved like we are, should be front page news, but it's not. You're seeing everything else, it's all about Trump's world tour and visits and this and that and a bunch of blah blah. It's the same old, look one way while something else goes on the board. Now, it's funny, because back in the days when you had Bush and Cheney, and that's what it feels like now, this access of evil and this whole push that we had going, but the heat got too hot. You know what I mean? People were really starting to get frustrated with the war. Frustrated, starting to see it for what it was, an oil grab, big pharma grab. And then Obama comes in. Obama kind of takes it off that. He starts pulling troops out. We start talking about how the war's over and this and that. And he's trying to have relations with Iran and all the BS that's going on. And he brought the war home. He started turning it more into this race relation and gender equality and your sexualities and all this, the transgenders and you name it. We had to get the distractions somewhere else. And that's what they did. The distractions started going to other things, and people weren't really thinking about it too much. We were all at each other's throats and not worrying about everything else. Then Trump comes in, a man who's been pushing Iran since before he even got into office. A man who built his whole campaign basically on throwing Hillary in jail, which he never did. Basically calls her a great woman now. Him and Bill probably still play golf. And he comes in and really lights the fuse. He keeps that distraction going. He keeps that animosity towards all of us to the point to where we've worried about a civil war starting. Now we have all these false flags kicking off that keep us distracted. If the divide and conquer wasn't bad enough and the false flags weren't bad enough, now we're like right on the brink of World War III. We know, just like in the past tells the future. And if we know anything about the past, when it comes to, expecting a false flag to really make this crank off, to like the Gulf of Tonkin or something like that, for people who don't think these events took place, look it up. We've used false flags since the beginning of our whole war machine has started. Even Pearl Harbor. I mean, truly think about it. You're talking about a government who is actually going to make Iranian boats in our own shipyards, put Navy SEALs on them, and send them out there to attack Saudi boats or some other, Israeli or somebody in that area, just to start a war. And these are admitted things.
One of the items was, why not, there was a dozen ideas proffered how to trigger a war. The one that interested me the most was, why don't we in our shipyard, build 4 or 5 Iranian boats that look like Iranian PT boats, put Navy SEALs on them, with a lot of arms, and the next time one of our boats goes to the Straits of Hormuz, start to shoot them. Might cost some lives.
These are people that wrote books also on how to produce a false flag to get that war that you wanted. This war machine is what pays the bills, and they will do whatever it takes to keep it going. Funny thing is, they've set this game up to where if it were to ever fail or stop and crash, they've even set it up to where their true power would come out in that failure. It would truly be shown unless we truly come together, quit dividing ourselves, really come together to call these people out for what they are, the true genocide that goes on. To throw this mainstream manipulation out the door where it should be. Nobody can hear it or pay attention to it. That deception needs to be gone. It's people, like high impact flicks. These people out there speaking the truth, truly out there with a voice telling people really how it is. Us coming together as a group of people. That's the only way to ever really keep these people in check. And we've done it as much as we can. They're starting to get more powerful, more deceptive. And unfortunately, most of the public has fallen into that trap. And we've also seen in the past, though, when it comes to these other leaders, what happens if they step out of the lines and don't play by their rules. See, it's okay to be a dictator. It's okay to have crimes against humanity. Just play by their rules. Don't go outside that box. And especially don't make your own currency. You think about it. Saddam 2000, Gaddafi 09, Syrian president 06. Funny thing is, they fund most of these people. They give them the weapons, they give them the funds, but then when they start to get too big for their britches, they come in and take them out. When they're not willing to play ball and they start to think, well, all this that I have is mine. No, truly belongs to those powers that be. We've built these groups and these dictators just like we built ISIS and the Taliban, but we've used them differently. See, one we've used to keep control of the land and just, kind of give us our part. It's almost like a mob thing. You give a little handout as long as you get your percentage. The other group, ISIS and the Taliban, have been used. Well, we know how that goes. Our boogeymen run into places and we come in to chase them out. That's for those leaders that aren't willing to play by our rules, so we can come in and basically create our rules for saving them. Now, right now in Saudi Arabia, we see the Saudi king taking out others who aren't playing by the rules, others that he feels probably are going to give him problems going along with this whole Iran agenda, or going along with the fact of letting us come in and kind of run things. See, this rules, it kind of rolls downhill, what. And with this king right now, there was at one point, people talked about him stepping down and relinquishing his power to others. But no, that is not what's happened. He's kept it all, and he's basically torturing and killing off those who don't want to go along with this little setup that's happening. When really, in reality, though, none of these leaders, kings, presidents, you name it, none of them are the true leaders. None of them are the true voices. They're puppets. They're puppets that, if don't do what they're told, will easily be replaced. The true power are those powers that be. They make the rules. The others are put there to follow. And those who play by the rules get to get away with anything. Like the true crimes against humanity. The things that are going on right now that the Red Cross warned about. The fact that ships, planes, vehicles are being blocked by the Saudi Arabia coalition from coming into Yemen to bring supplies from food, medicine, and other needed essentials. All this is being blocked to these people. And now they're on the verge of not only starvation, but disease spreading. Well-needed medicine was blocked from getting here, and the Red Cross warned about this. And this isn't being talked about in mainstream today. Why not? Instead, we talk about a goldfish or a koi feeding. When these true crimes against humanity are going on, we put a robot up for Saudi Arabia's news when they're doing this. And here's the real sick part. The U.S. is approving of this. There's why it's not in the news. See, it doesn't fit on the board the right way. Mainstream wouldn't dare talk about that. See, when these things happened in Syria, that fit. That fit part of the puzzle they wanted, so that was reported about. But this won't be, because it goes against the whole collusion, their whole agenda, the end game that they want. See, they always want to look like the heroes, never admit that they're these are the dictators. These are the crimes against humanity. And they're involved in it. Now, things that you probably will hear about on the news is the fact that there was a missile attack on a Saudi airport. The fact that there was a Saudi pipeline that blew up. And I'm sure that all these things will be blamed on Iran. That's how it all goes down. This is where the false flags start. Now, there are the chances that they did it, but there is also a big chance that they had nothing to do with it. But don't you think these false flags will not happen? Because they will. And they'll start happening more and more, and that's what you'll start seeing in the news. Not the fact of these people starving and dying from disease. These innocent people who have nothing to do with the war are going to be victimized like they are. That part won't be reported on. Other than people like myself and others out there who are willing to come out and say this. And all I can tell you all is make sure you spread the word about this and tell all that you can tell. Because that's the only way these things will get out, especially the way mainstream is today. You'll basically be hearing about more Hollywood stuff, things that we already knew that were going on for years, but the only time they want to talk about it is when they want to muck the waters up with other information, so you don't start noticing what's going on in the rest of the world. You know, throughout all these events and this whole time, I kept wondering and asking myself, would this really bring another big oil grab, or would it really bring World War III? And truly, it seems like it's already started. I don't think the oil grab's ever stopped. But this World War III, I feel like it's already started. It's just a matter of the shots being fired. See, just because there's not a war going on in your backyard doesn't mean the war hasn't started somewhere else. We see things escalating in North Korea, more ships than we've ever seen before. We see the fact that after Trump arrived in South Korea, he talked to a commander and basically told this man that he wanted to be a destroyer of world peace and stability, and begged for nuclear war on the North Korea peninsula. I mean, why not? Well, let it happen. We already knew this was coming. Think about during the election how many things he said about North Korea and Iran. How many times he brought them up and basically blatantly made it clear how he wanted to go in and eradicate these people. It's funny, you know, he says certain things about, you know, Kim, and then Kim will say something about him and he'll bust out with things like he wanted to be friends. Why can't they be friends? Give me a break, dude. Really, truly, it's not like he had any say in it. You're talking about another puppet. Another person that just goes along with what the powers tell him to say. So, probably the next thing is definitely he'll be saying, like he did with North Korea, is he'll start putting sanctions on Iran. Sanctions they probably can't even live up to. More ways to just dupe it into a war. With that, along come the false flags. Be ready for that. Along with that come the boogeymen. They'll go into places, more than likely it's our own created boogeymen, and they'll commit horrible crimes on innocent people. But once again, nobody will be talking about Yemen and them not getting the supplies they need. But they'll talk about one shot that was fired somewhere in Saudi Arabia. All made up, created, funded, weapons, you name it, just like the dictators that we put into offices. All created by us. See, unfortunately, the chess match is a little uneven. They seem to make all the rules up. It's hard to keep up with them. See, one thing that we can use probably against them a little bit is their ego. The distractions that they put across us and the events that they pull, they tend to like to leave their little calling cards, little clues and hints. It's those egos they have. They're huge. They can't contain them. They want people to know somehow, some way that they're responsible for this chaos in the world. It's up to us to find those little crumbs and make sure that we call them out on it. But along with that is to find the warnings that are put in with those too. Those little bit of warnings that they accidentally spit out or that ego can't control and it lets out and blurts it. Especially Trump. Especially one thing he said recently after meeting with top officials. After he met with the press and he happened to say something about the calm before the storm. When asked about this, he nonchalantly kind of brushed it off and said, "You'll see." It's those things right there that worry me. It's those things that I look at as that what if and could be's that are coming. That ego starting to let the truth out. That we're going to see a storm like we can't believe. We'll see. Oh yeah, we'll see. You see, with all these things, all these hints, these clues, their egos taking over, by no means am I ever saying don't keep your eyes on any of these other events. Like I said, when it comes to Vegas, New York, Texas, DNC, all these things, we can't just let those go. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful for what we're staring at and focusing on, that we don't miss what's been going on right behind us. Just like this chessboard, throughout this video, the pieces have been moving around. Have any of you noticed? Or were you focused on me the whole time and didn't see in the background? Kudos to those who did. But we have to be careful, having that laser focus on one thing and missing all of the other clues to the rest of the world, the rest of what's going on around us. Because if we focus too much and we miss all these things, so easily the game could be over. Checkmate. Time's up. So be careful, folks. You got to keep your eyes open and keep your mind sharp. There's a slick, I want to use some words, but I'm not going to do that because there might be kids watching. But that's how I feel. Use that anger, folks. Use that damn aggression and focus it and channel it. We've got to come together. We've got to stop letting them divide us and conquer us. We got to stop letting them manipulate us and using us just like these pawns. Because right now, we're all in this together. And they're basically keeping us separated, keeping us torn apart. We're all focused on different things, when in reality, we all share that one common dream of finally having a world that we deserve, a world that we dream of, without all this mess involved. So, that was a real happy video. Everybody, hang in there. Hopefully, everything we talk about never happens, but in reality, it's happening right now all over the world. Please bring focus to those that aren't being talked about by mainstream. The deception that goes on, bring focus to those, and maybe we can bring awareness and one day open that up and help these people out. Because those caught up in this whole mess between these elites do not deserve it. They deserve the same lives that we all deserve, and that's peace and freedom and happiness. Liberties are being taken away. Let's try to slow it down together. All right, y'all. I've talked enough. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, always truly giving me this opportunity. More than anything, y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay incredible. Keep your eyes open.